What's up, people? Mr. B here as usual. And today we're going to do a little different thing. I'll talk about some stuff that I've been working on. I'll talk specifically a couple of books that I have on my platform. And just to give you a quick background. Now, uh, the three books, and they are all based on Jamaica. Jamaica has a reputation around the world as one of the top 10 most culturally influential countries around the world. And one of the things that I observed as I moved to the United States a little over 16 years ago, is the liberty that others take of Jamaica in terms of, first of all, everybody tried to copy the, the elements of the ethos of being a Jamaican. Copy the language, they love the music. People dance to Jamaican music all around the world. And a lot of people from other islands, basically pass themselves off as Jamaicans. And a lot of people here push out stories about Jamaica without having had any actual experience of living or growing up in Jamaica. And so, it reminded me that if we don't take ownership of our culture, others will, and their expression of it is not going to do the justice that should be done to the country. In other words, you lose your culture if you're not writing your own story. You lose your history. And so I've opted, having been involved in writing for a long time, I thought, let me put my own perspective out there. And so I have a number of works um, available. And we're going to talk about a couple of them today. First one we're going to touch on is Scotch Bonnet Dream. Some people have wondered, what the hell is this Scotch Bonnet Dream? Well, if you know about Scotch Bonnet pepper, right away we're talking about some food business. And again, the Jamaican the Jamaican food is one of the big drawing cards that pulls people into Jamaica as visitors. And by the way, if you have a vacation lineup for go down at Jamaica, yeah, we get some rough licks after the hurricane. But that don't mean say you must stop your vacation. If you once you can validate, verify that the property you're going to stay on is in good nick, and the place a come back, go on down a yard, because the country need all of the support and the foreign exchange and thing. And plus it's a good time to be in Jamaica. Christmas time is a nice time. So thing. But I say this against the background of the food thing. So Jamaica food is a big part of who we are as a people. And so my thing is, let's talk about Jamaica food. We talk about music from time to time. So Scotch Bonnet Dreams, what is the story about? Okay, so Scotch Bonnet focus on a character, Winston, right? Winston Beckford him name. A youth come from down Clarendon, live actually in the town of Denby in Clarendon. And the story is set in the 1990s. He is not doing too well economically, and Jamaica, we're always under pressure in terms of the economy and all, um, political decisions. And so the population gets sucked in by these bad decisions. But let's not get into that. The reality is that Winston comes out of this environment, and so Winston is trying to see if he can set up himself, if you will, if he can, find a little space elsewhere in the world where he can um, you know, provide for him family, because him father dead and not never go on, left a little piece of land, which was a good thing. And so when he realized that not now go on for him, he said, boy, it must see if him can go a foreign. And so he makes some arrangement to say how him can, get a visa and a passport and a visa. And we're not giving the story too much, but he ultimately comes into possession of a passport, a dead man passport, that him had to do some serious hustling to raise the money to pay for the passport. And so Winston ends up in America, New York. Him go to New York on a late night flight. Back in the 90s, he used to have some flights that leave Kingston 1 o'clock in the morning, reach New York by 4:30, 5 o'clock. And so him go up on one of them flight there with him bandu the passport. And that is where the story really gets thing. Winston, back in Jamaica, Winston used to, as part of him little hustling, him cook little soup and little curry goat, curry chicken, the dancer play around Clarendon, and him borrow a couple of mother pot them and thing, and him set up on the sidewalk and fix up himself. And so that is a skill where him basically realized from him old lady. But him go foreign to see if him can make some money, and him a work on a site, a construction site, and he has an accident. And the really gripping component of the story there, because him a work with a man who is an all-time ruffian from Jamaica bad man and thing. And so Winston have to find another alternative, and he decides boy, the one thing we him know is for cook, and rather than go back on them tall building and drop off, and next time he might even survive. So him roll out a little hustling, kind of did save a little money at the time him work on the construction side, and him set up himself. And so essentially this is a story about the spirit of Jamaica and Jamaicans. Jamaicans have this never say die attitude, and Winston epitomizes that. And so ultimately Winston turns the thing into a restaurant, and there the story takes off. And so this is where the whole idea, the Scotch bonnet concept comes in, because Winston basically builds on his mother's teaching him how to cook and how to season and use up the Scotch bonnet pepper and all of the spices and thing and ray. And Winston find a way for himself, because that's the ethos of being a Jamaican. If you give it a look in, just a little toe hole, we're not gonna make it waste. And so this is the story of Winston Beckford. And you imagine New York in the 1990s, the circumstances, enough hustling. We were kind of recovering from some other negative influences back in America there at the time. And Winston's job now is to overcome all of that. He have to basically dodge the compliance people there, because him can't, like Jamaica, where the Jamaica man just set up fireside on the sidewalk and thing. So all of them compliance thing them have to deal with, and then him have to dodge immigration. So it's a gripping little story, and 330 odd pages of 42 chapters, and it basically looks at Winston's life before him go America. It look at him relationship with his sister and his mother, and the impact that him father have upon him as a youth, right? And him taking all of that and decide to boy, I'm gonna take the risk, because trust me, that's one thing with us as Jamaicans. We're not shy away from taking risks. And so Winston take a risk. You wanna grab a copy of this story, the Scotch Bonnet Dreams. It is available on the website at yardmedia.com. Just YAAWD media.com, and click on the link books, and you do that. And if you do that, you're gonna get an autograph copy. As I say, if we don't tell our stories, other people are gonna tell the story for you, right? And they're not gonna write complimentary about Jamaica. Me who live it, me old enough, me in my 60s and all, and me I write from long time. I write from in the 70s, 1976. I won a silver medal at the Jamaica Literary Festival. And I won another silver medal 2 years later for another writing work that I put out. So I've always had this penchant for writing. And now that I'm here, I have the experience. I have lived the experience. So nobody can tell me about Jamaica because I lived it. Me watch the culture as it developed. Me watch from in Mali and Toots and all of them come through. And so the composite of all of this is what makes us Jamaica. My job is to tell Jamaica's stories, and this is one of them. Scotch Bonnet Dreams. You don't want to miss it. Really, really nice story. I'm not give you the story too much, but check it out. This is a man who take him chances, buy a dead man passport with a visa in it, and him decide to him over see what him can do, if him can make a difference in family life and all of that. And as me say, me not give you the story, but buy the book. Now, the next project that I just really published this one. It's called The Men We Become. Now, this is a story that looks at 4 guys live in America for the longest while. Yeah, and all of them are Jamaicans, but them come here at different points in time. But between them, they have lived in America for more than collectively 130 years thereabout. Got them guy in them late 50s, early 60s. And so life is not turning out to be what it had promised them when they were youngsters. You're young and you feel say you're a Superman, you can do everything. And they saw life through different lens. But you get to a point where you come now 60 odd, and for different reasons, them find themselves, them a single man, and they live in 4 different places in America. So them don't know each other. Now, what makes the story? Because this is a story about aging, about, as men, we don't talk about our issues when we get old. We don't talk about the health issues, relationship issues, your issues with your children and all of that. And so that's what this story is about. 4 men, different point in time. One of them, this guy was a pharmacist and loved his wife, was married for over 30 odd years, and his wife died. And so, here's a man who he don't know nobody else. And so he just get up each morning and him go to work at the pharmacy. His kids are concerned about him. His family members, and him do have a lot of them close by. They too are concerned. And they decide that, something, you need to go check out this cruise thing. And so them send him a thing up for go on a cruise. And of course, him keep him house like a shrine, because the same way his wife died and thing, him sleep on one side of the bed, him ruffle the side where she sleep on her slippers, the right of the thing, 2 years after the woman dead. And him keeping the house as a monument to her, thing, going away, when once him go home, him lock up in the house. Him make porridge for himself, what she normally do, a morning time, and without even realizing it, him a serve two serving a porridge, one for she, one for him. But the woman is dead 2 years ago. And so these are the challenges now that him have to, him, his kids are saying, Pops, you have to broke out of this. There's one other guy, he was married 3 times. And all 3 marriages, all 3 pins licked up. Marriage never worked. Him and the children, them have no relationship. And so him have to now live in a little 1-bedroom apartment in a New Jersey. And things bad. Him not enough savings, a little bit of savings, but what he was expecting when he moved to America some 20 odd years before, that's not what it turning out to be. And him not have no social life. There is a third guy who is a mechanic. Good mechanic too. Live in Florida, in a Lauderhill, like myself. And him have about 5 different baby mother. But him not have no relationship with none of them. And the kids and him in a loggerheads, and then him start to come to the realization that him old, and most of him life behind him, not in front of him. And so him, like the pharmacist, like the other one with the 3-time married and the 3-time it broke up, them to get the same invitation for go up on a cruise. Now remember, none of these guys know each other. And the 4th guy is a chef, big time chef in Maryland. Wicked restaurant. In fact, the restaurant named Scotch Bonnet Restaurant too, right? So he's a chef in one of the franchise them. So me I'll give you a little something about the first book that it leak over upon this. And so these 4 men don't know each other. End up I go on the same cruise, a cruise where I carry them from Nassau to Aruba to St. Lucia to Montego Bay and then back to Florida. 8 days at sea, right? And in the course of the 8 days, the 4 of them gradually drift together and then them start to talk about their own personal experiences. Share issues that as man and man, we don't generally talk about. And so they now realize, each of them, as them start to build a little connection between them, that they're not alone. A nice little story. And again, I'm not giving it away because each person has his own experience. And while I'm on this big ship with some 6,000 other passengers, it's just the 4 of them literally drifted together, and then them can now start to talk about. And so the story is about each person's different experience. Chef is an excellent chef, but him not have no relationship skills, and so him and his wife, she, the 2 of them split up, and him 2 kids, him have a daughter with grandchildren we don't know, because him lock himself away. And these are problems that men as a whole we go through them things. And so this is what the story is all about, the men that we become, right? Again, a Jamaica perspective. It looks at how them looking forward to visit Jamaica for the first time. Between the 4 of them, they have not been to Jamaica for more than a decade. And so they're now looking at, enjoying the cruise. Yes, we kind of go about and we talk about the experiences, the different island stops, but more specifically, the stop in Montego Bay. And 4 men, right? And the men that they have become. Again, it's available on the website at yardmedia.com. Check it out, right? And again, if you yardmedia.com /books and you get a copy. Again, we're telling stories of Jamaica by Jamaicans in a language that we understand, or relatable as Jamaicans. My job is to share these experiences, because if we don't write our own stories, other people are going to write them, and they're going to write it from their own perspective. And then that brings me to a third novel, Unbroken, Sheila 2.0. In fact, this particular book is a sequel to what was my first book. My first book that I wrote way back in the day was called Sheila, the Girl from the Lane. And this is a story of a young girl come from down a 33 lane in a Kingston, and she, refused to follow her parents' instructions and guidance, and of course she fell by the wayside, and she had to literally bring herself up. Her little boyfriend who she there with, she had him fall out, left her with two picnic and gone, and she now had to find her way. And so book one talks about her in Jamaica in the 1980s, right? This was during the tumultuous period of politics, and it shows how the Jamaica impacted Jamaicans, particularly youngsters from the inner city communities during that time. And it basically spoke to, or speaks to, character, inner strength. And it speaks specifically to women and the choices that them have to make and how them have to bring themselves up. Now, Sheila makes good of some opportunities that she has been given, and she is able to move away from, she got a nice good job, went back to school, and built a business for herself. Now, Unbroken, Sheila 2.0, is her as a big woman now with adult children, and looking at the challenges of a woman in the fashion world in Jamaica, building a fashion business, especially at a time when dancehall is the big lick. And so she builds a business out as making dancehall fashion a big thing, not only in Kingston and Portmore, but she also owns another store in Montego Bay. It looks at the criminal underworld and how that impacts her. And the story rolls its way into New York City, where Sheila Salmon, her influence is felt far and wide. It looks at her relationship with her children's father, who comes back into the picture, and them, try work to see if them can move the ball down the road. Again, a Jamaican story told by Jamaicans in a language that Jamaicans can relate to. Again, my philosophy, if you don't tell your own story, others are going to try to do that for you. And so my job as a writer is to write our stories, look at development through the eyes, and express it through the eyes, the perspective of Jamaicans who have been down this road, who have had these experiences. And so nobody can come tell me about the Jamaican economy, because I lived it. And so when we talk about Sheila and why she cannot be broken, because she understands that there is nobody else. If she can't depend on her own abilities, nobody else not there to depend on, right? And what is worse, her kids are dependent on her as a single woman, a strong woman. This is a story, of a strong Jamaican woman and how she interfaces with a Jamaica at a time when the challenges are there, the socio-economic and political challenges, the issues of extortion, how she deals with that, corrupt legal system, corrupt business practices, how she deals with that, and she comes out, on top. Sheila 2.0, Unbroken. This is the story of Sheila Salmon, version 2, because this is a sequel to Sheila, the Girl from the Lane. And again, you can grab copies of all of these books on my website at yardmedia.com. Let me tell you that these books are also available on Amazon.com. They're available as Kindle downloads as well. But you want to get a autograph copy, go up on the website and you're going to yardmedia.com. That's YAAWD media.com, and grab yourself a copy. I'll be more than happy to send you an autographed copy. So, I don't plan for going away anytime soon, but at least, autograph, get a book some extra value. And then the final novel is a problem we have been having for decades. Go back to the 1940s. The gunman in Jamaica. Jamaica fall in love with the gun back in the 1970s. But a little more earlier than that still, because the gun thing I go from back in the 40s. If you remember the story of Reagan, the Jimmy Cliff starred in that movie, the late Jimmy Cliff, the harder they come. And that story was about the badman, gunman Reagan, right? Well, that was in the 1940s, 1950s. And so we kind of got the gun itch around then. It basically elevated itself in the 1960s with the election in 1962, the independence election, if you will. Gun violence reared its head in the 62 election, which caused the lockdown of the Dongle polling station, Siaga versus Dudley Thompson at the time. The lockdown the polling station, Siaga win the election by 400 odd votes, and he never looked back after that. Dudley Thompson, who was known as the Burning Spear, because he had just come back from defending the Jomo Kenyatta in a big trial back in with the British and the Africans. But anyway, so Top Rankings is born out of this era. It looks at the story is told through two different characters. One is a policeman named Gardner, and a youth, them call him Copper Shot, right? One of the big bad men. I must tell you, the story is kind of influenced by Trinity, policeman Trinity, and Dennis Bart, Copper. So two opposing dangerous forces. But it looks at Gardner going to go join the police. His father come from country and come live at Kingston, and he brought him into the world. Gardner turns police, and he comes face to face with the bad man Dennis Coppershot. And so this looks at the impact of the criminality on our socio-political and economic systems, and it basically tells this story from either perspective. So you're seeing it from the gunman side, and then you're seeing it from the police side, and of course there's an overlay. It is I refer to these works as historical fiction because it's laced with snippets of Jamaican history and how these developments gave rise to the situation at the time. And of course, you can interpolate all of that into how it impacts the Jamaica that we find ourselves in at this point in time. So, yeah, these are my works. There are 5 of these books. They're all available. And so I'm going to encourage you. We have to support the thing. So, my request, support the thing. Check out the website. Check me out on Amazon and get a copy. But certainly if you want an autographed copy, that is available on the website at yardmedia.com, and that's YAAWD.com. And just to give you a quick run back over, we're talking about top rankings here. Then, of course, there's Sheila the Girl from the Lane. There's a sequel, Sheila 2.0, Unbroken. And there is Scotch Bonnet Dreams with Winston and the Scotch Bonnet Restaurant. And, of course, there is The Men We Become. 5 great novels, even if I have to say so myself, because that's what we're trying to do, is to tell Jamaican stories. As I was growing up, you go to the library, you get some books written about some faraway places that most people can't even identify with. What I'm doing here is telling stories that gives you a feel for Jamaica, what the Jamaica that we all come from. It looks at the hopes and the aspirations of the average Jamaican who is just simply, working hard to put themselves on the map and to raise families and so on. But Jamaican literature, check it out, yardmedia.com. Again, the men we became, Scotch Bonnet Dreams, Sheila, the girl from the lane, Sheila 2.0, Unbroken, and finally, Top Rankings, a chronicle of the origin of Jamaican badness, written all by yours truly. Check it out. And if share this stream with your friends, share it by your page, but let us consume Jamaican literature, because that's what this is all about. We telling our own stories. And so, just want to use the opportunity again to encourage, everybody, support the Jamaica thing. At the same time, too, while you're on the website, don't be pinchy Kobe. Go check out the website. On the site as well, there are some, pieces of artwork that if every piece of work that you purchase on the site, we contribute some 30% of those proceeds will go towards the Build Back Jamaica Fund. And, again, Jamaica is all ours. We just need to believe and to support that. So support the team, all right? Check out my website as well. Check out my page on my thing on YouTube. The Jamaica Mix podcasts on YouTube. Yours truly. Anything about on Jamaica, we try to stay on top of it. Because he's a yard man, unapologetic. Me not the political labor right PNP thing. He's a Jamaican, and so my commentary I go leak on all of the sides. We're big it up when it needs to big up, and when it needs to be pointed out, we're gonna do that too. Until we do this again, I mean, see man, Missa B, and if you feel free to share, if any questions you have, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, just reach out to me, and yours truly will respond to everything. Again, enjoy your weekend. Big up on yourself. Respect.